Hello guys, this is Bob Therman here. I want to take you guys today to how to use a table saw safely. Now the type of table saw that we're using today, this is more of one that you have in your shop. If you had a fabrication you're going to do, a shop fabrication or a good setup for you doing cabinets or even just building a fireplace mantle or something like that, you might have a setup area where you actually do some construction work or building or finish type work that you're doing. So this is more of a floor model. You can bring them on job sites though, not a floor model, but they make one that runs on wheels that you can it'll go through door openings. If there's a new construction, you need to work inside the house, the table saw will work good for that. So there's some good places you can find those where you can purchase affordable table saws. But today, I'm going to show you the floor model one. They all work the same, guys. There's not much difference, okay? So with that, let me get started. So I'd like to talk first about safety before I actually get into the use of the tool itself. First of all, make sure you have some head buds or a headgear that you have. I don't have them with me today. I'm only going to do like 1 or 2 cuts, but if you're doing a lot of repetition cutting, you're going to want something to protect your ears. As contractors over the years, yeah, we lose our hearing. I know my left ear sometimes just because I'm a left-hander and running the saws all the time, and the nail guns that pop, pop, pop. Didn't do it in the early days, should have. I'll wear headgear. Especially if I'm doing a lot of cutting, a lot of repetition cutting, I'll do that. So I really suggest that. The other thing is, get a good pair of safety glasses. They don't cost much. This is set I've got here probably costs about $4 or $5. That's all. And make sure they wrap around. The nice thing is these guys got a nice wrap around. So when you put it on, it covers your face. It covers your eyes real good. So whenever I do my cutting, I'll wear the safety glasses. I actually wear them on the job site most of the time. If you're out the day, after a while, you don't even know you have them on. So it's kind of cool. So with this saw, safety factors, I want to talk a little bit about that now, is we've got the guard, or the safety guard. It raises up, and the purpose for it to raise up and set up is that's to set your measurements if you need to. So it's a guard, it keeps your fingers protected. You can still cut yourself. Don't get me wrong, you can accidentally, with this guard down, if your hand passes through the fingers, you're going to get cut. Okay? So make sure, I always like to, I call it the 2-inch rule. Keep your fingers 2 inches away from the blade, whether it's in the front side, the back side, or the sides here. Stay 2 inches away. I always say the 2-inch rule. And this particular one for my guys, we painted it red. It's fading out a little bit. I've got to get some fresh paint on it. But we painted the red around here and said, look, that's the danger zone. Keep your fingers out of that area. Couple other things is, guys, with the safety guards, a little bit about the equipment. When you're doing measuring, there's a couple ways you can measure with these table saws. Some of them have the tapes along the side here, and there's a reader here. You can actually lift the guard up. You can slide this is called the fence. The fence slides back and forth. You can set the distance you need here, whether it's 12 inches or whatever. This one here I've got set. It's about 12 and a half inches right there between the blade here. That's our setting. Now, a key thing to remember is this. When you're using the table saw, your finished piece of wood that you want to cut is always between the blade and the fence. Some people used to think, oh gosh, I'll just take my piece, they'd say, I'll take this piece of wood and I'm only going to take a 1/4 inch off. So they'll slide this all the way over, lock it down, and they'll try to cut a 1/4 inch off, or they'll go, a lot of the guys will do this. They'll set it and think they want their 1/4 inch, they'll put a mark there and they'll say, okay, that's where I want to cut it. And they think the keeper piece is on the left. No, your accuracy is in between the blade and the fence. So make sure you do that when you set it. That's where the keep is. The cool thing about this one is I can cut sheets of plywood. I can spread this out. I can go 48 inches, a sheet of plywood's 48. I can take this down to whatever I need to keep that piece between there and cut it. It's really nice. Now another cool safety feature on this, we have these teeth in the back, okay? And these are what we call anti-kickback guards, okay? And it's just what it says. It keeps the wood from kicking back. Because the rotation of the blade that we have here, it doesn't rotate counterclockwise, it actually rotates clockwise. So the blade's actually spinning back towards you. So if you're running a piece of wood through, if you don't have that anti-kick guard in there, guess what? This thing's going to kick back at you. Or it's got the potential to. If it binds up in the saw blade, you're cutting too fast, or you got a twisted piece of wood, and then the wood tries to close, the saw curve closes down on you, it's going to want to kick back, okay? And if that happens, even in the anti-kick guard, if you're having trouble pushing through, don't force it through. Turn the machine off, lower the blade, pull the wood out, work the wood back out, start all over again. That's the recommended way to do it. So these anti-kicks, the way they work, there's two of them. There's one on the left side, there's one on the right side. So basically when the wood goes through and you're pushing through to make your cut, and if it gets hung up and wants to kick back, it actually, the teeth catch and it won't come back. So the only way you can get it through there is you have to push it in a forward motion. So I'm going to lift those guards up so I get my wood out of there. But that's the way that works. The other thing we want to do from a safety factor is how high do we set the blade? And we like to be about an eighth to not more than a quarter inch above the wood. Because the higher the blade is, the more more exposed blade, the more chance that those fingers or something could get caught in there and you could cut yourself real bad. You take your finger off, the higher it is, the more losing a whole finger versus if it's only an eighth of an inch, you might just get a slight cut. If you were to get your fingers in the blade, we don't want to see that happen. The cool thing about this saw is, I can't talk about brands, but it's actually got an automatic shut-off. In other words, they tested this. They took a hot dog and tried to actually cut a hot dog between here, and the moisture from the hot dog, it's got a sensor in here that'll automatically, the blade shuts down, drops down. So they're expensive saw to get, but it actually does that. So if my finger was to get near the blade when it's running, within an eighth of an inch, it'll automatically shut and go down. Don't try it, don't recommend it, okay? And when they do shut down, you have to buy a new brake that fits in there, and that's about a $60 item to replace it. So you don't want to make a habit of that, cutting that and doing it that way, okay? To raise and lower this blade, there's a wheel on the front here. I'm going to raise it up. That's down, I'm sorry, and that's raising it up. And we can actually raise this quite high, as you can see. I can get up there and actually get up to about 3.5 inches, I believe. This is a 10-inch blade on this particular one. Just back down to the height that we need. Right about there. That's our height point right there. There's a splitter guard in the middle here. That's where the saw curve, so when the saw and the blade and your wood's going through, the splitter is right with it. It's actually the same width as the blade, or very close to it. So it actually keeps the wood spread apart as it passes through the saw. So this little splitter is nice to have in there. And the reason I leave this in the up position, if I need to take my measurement, say I need to bring my fence across, and I want a certain size, I can take my ruler here, and if I really want to be super accurate, I can measure from my ruler from the fence to the inside of the blade. And I can measure that and get exact. And then there's a little, this little mechanism here, that's your lockdown. That locks the fence in place. So I can take the fence, lift it up, I'll actually move back and forth, okay? And then I can lock it down, okay? I'll tell you when you lock it, don't, just put it down, and it locks in place, okay? I like to do that. Keep this in mind. The teeth are separated. Each way, every other tooth, one goes to the right, one goes to the left. When you measure, if you want to get the accuracy, look at your teeth. And since the good piece is to the inside between the blade and the fence, that's your keeper piece. Okay? You want to make sure you hit that saw curve. Measure off of this saw curve on this side, because that's the cut. That's the final cut that's going to get along there. So if you want to be super accurate, you do that. A lot of times, this saw is quite accurate. With the gauge here, I can get it's probably with a 64th of an inch. It's that accurate, but not all table saws are. Especially the ones you take out on the job site, those portable ones, they get bumped around a little bit. They get off. This little guard can get off, okay? That's why I like to take my tape measure, and I still like to check it. Now, when you're doing that, make sure the saw is in the off position, especially the ones on the job site. make sure you unplug it. This has got a safety factor in it. It will not turn on, so I can leave it plugged in. They're designed to be plugged in, but it's got an off position. But on a job site, recommend unplugging it. Okay, that's another good safety factor when we do that. So I'm going to demonstrate to you guys a couple cuts. I'm going to first start and show you guys how to do a rip cut, and then I'm going to show you how to do a cross cut. Okay. Now, when we talk about rip cutting, let's talk a little bit about that. If you look at a piece of wood, you've got the grain pattern, and the grain pattern goes up and down. Okay. That means when we rip, we cut with the grain of the wood. So if I'm ripping this, I'm going to cut this direction, going through the saw, because I'm going to cut it with the grain. I do not want to do this. This is when we cut across the grain. We call it cross cut. Makes sense, doesn't it? Cut across, cross cut. Okay, rip, we're cutting with the grain. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate the rip cut. The rip cut's probably the most common one you're going to do, on this particular saw. You can also, we can angle the blade as well and cut a bevel cut on it. Okay, there's a potential to do that. There's another wheel over here we rotate if we want to do a bevel cut. I'm not going to demonstrate that today. Because most of the time, guys, the type of cuts you're going to do is mostly going to be a rip cut. And we'll use a different saw. We'll actually use a cross miter saw, which I'll talk about in a little bit here, if we want to cross cut. But you can also do cross cut on this, and I'll show you when we get ready to do that, okay? So I'm going to do a rip, and one other thing I like to use, I like push sticks, okay? I made these. I would rather cut one of these up. You can see this one's been chewed up a little bit. As far as the push stick is, you can make these. They're simple to make, okay? So sometimes I'll take both and push them through. That way your fingers hold that 2-inch rule, staying away, and it makes it nice and safe. So again, I'm going to put my safety glasses on. I'm going to run a cut for you, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. So the first thing is I'm just going to make a cut. I'm going to set this cut up for, I'm going to bring it over to about 2 inches, or about 1 3/4 actually. I'll tap it until I get it set. I'll lock it down. The safety guard, I'll check my height. I'm about 1/8 to 1/4 above the wood. Sometimes I say use your pinky as a guide. It'll give you a good idea how high to set it. Sometimes I just have them measured every time. You can usually use your eye to visualize it. And then make sure you put the guard down. The guard's got to be in the down position. When I get going through with this, I'm going to actually take my push stick and push that piece through, and I'm actually going to guide it with the other hand with this one going through, because I got a pretty small piece. This is a 1x4. It's actually 3.5 inches wide. So I'm going to run this through. It's going to take 2 push sticks to do it. Sometimes it's good when you're on the other end. I like sometimes to have a guy on the back side here pulling it through. If you're working in pairs, if there's 2 of you working together, have the other guy help pull it through. Finish pulling it through as you go through, or catch it as it goes through. So this is some 3/4 pine I'm going to rip. I've got my size set. I don't have to mark the wood, guys. If I've got my size set at 1 3/4 inch, I don't have to mark the wood. I'm going to cut it, and it's going to give me 1 3/4 inch when I'm done. So here we go. I'm going to run it through. We're all set. If you've got ventilation system, nice to have. I'm not going to turn on because, again, we're videoing. I'm showing you guys how it's done, so I'm only doing 1 cut. So it's not a big deal. It's not that much dust kicked up. So here we go. The on-off is down here. On this side, it's actually got a leg kick. You can actually kick it with your leg to stop it. You can't start it, but you can kick it to stop it with your leg. The bad part thing about it is sometimes you're doing succession cuts and you accidentally bump it and you shut off, then you got to turn it back on again. So here we go. I'm going to run it. I'll start it up. I'm going to stop talking because you really won't be able to hear me during this time. Alright, so I ran my 1x4 through there. Notice when I came through, I've got my 2 pieces on the back side. Again, the piece you want to keep is on the inside. On the outside, that's our scrap piece. So this one, might be able to use it later. Put it in your pile over there, save it. You can check your measurement, see if you've got your 1 3/4 inches. which in this case I'm perfect with it. It's right on the money. Notice the other thing is when I'm cutting, don't rush to cut through, but don't go too slow. If you go too slow, you're going to get some burn going. You can see here, I did get a little bit of burn. This is what happened when I first went through this, when I was pushing it through. I got hung up. I don't know if it was on my glide or whatever. It got a little slow for a second there. It burned the edge. I can say in that. It's not a big deal. You know, or if it's going to be painted to get painted over, it's not the end of the world. But you don't want this all burned and heating up your blade going too slow. You want to push it through in a consistent motion. So I'm kind of glad that actually happened to me, so I can actually show you guys what it looks like. If you leave the wood just sitting there as it's spinning, it'll start to burn the wood a little bit and carry through. I got hung up on something. I don't know, it might have been a little knot or something that I got hung up on, but you can see it. I don't know if you guys saw me at first. I did a little push to get through it, but it went through and got through it. And the rest of it cut very smoothly all the way through. So that's our table saw. That is a rip cut. Okay, I'm gonna give you a quick demo on a cross cut. To cross cut, I've got a tool right here. This is what we call our cross miter slide. Okay, and we can do angle cuts. It's set at 0 right now.